Hello everybody and welcome to a very long awaited review, about what, 6 months in the making now. This is the 2T Stalker, or the Stalker 2T, the T2, or simply the Stalker. This is a vehicle you can get for at the moment by doing the Eastern contracts, and the Eastern contracts will then be transferred into you needing to fully upgrade the vehicle. So 250 contracts for the improved missile launcher, 50 for the upgraded AP rounds, and 100 to 150 for the radar. This is possibly the best tier 8 AFV in terms of all-around utility. It's speedy, it's got good camo. The autocannon is nothing to sneeze at, but it can spot without exposing itself, and its missiles are actually extremely flexible. So to start off with, let's compare it to other AFVs in the same tier. Itself, the Rosamac, the M8 Buford. When I say AFVs, I mean vehicles that can spot. The Sprut, the VBR, the Griffin 120, and of course the Bradley. And I believe the K21 can sort of spot as well, but that's up to it. As you can see here, its autocannon damage is roughly on par with other AFVs, being a little less than the Bradley, but 205 penetration, better than the Rosamac. Everything else, DPM is relatively, but honestly nobody cares about the camo. Its hit points are relatively in line with the others, higher than the wheeled vehicles, lighter than the track ones. Remember, this isn't exactly a very heavy vehicle, so the does make sense to some extent. And lastly, its camo is noticeably better than quite a few vehicles, 40% overall. This is while moving up to a certain extent, so better than the Rosamac, better than the Buford, a little bit worse than the Sprut, but only 1%, but it has the same view range and vision range as the Sprut, but of course it gets radar, unlike the Sprut. Slightly worse than the VBR, slightly worse than the Griffin, same as the Bradley, and a little worse than the K21. Now, the rest of this whole accuracy thing is also quite useless as well. So the following will be a short series of clips comparing it to other vehicles of the same tier to see why the best part about this is actually the missiles. So let's have a quick look at that.
Identify target. Hostile tank. Identify. Hostile PC. Target locked on. Target's gone.
And as you can see there, the Stalker was able to spot and fire without exposing itself to being shot at. Now this is an absolutely massive advantage. Its missiles, 1000 pen, 850 damage, relatively okay. Of course they are completely inferior to the Kriz, but unlike the Kriz, the Stalker 2T's missiles can actually... It's in the turret. The Krizzes are not in the turret. So they're far more agile. You can use them for ridge poking. They're usable at close range, they're usable at long range, you can ridge fire, you can fire above enemies, you can fire below them, and they always have a pretty decent chance of hitting as well. So, next thing we want to talk about is commanders. Erin of Connell, of course, is the de facto scout meta commander. Erin will give you a total of 14% extra camo to you, but 8% of that camo, actually it's 13%, but 8% of that camo is only if friendly vehicles are within 25 meters. This might actually go for enemy vehicles as well, meaning in total the actual camouflage value of the Stalker 2T is actually 48% and 56%. Not bad. Now, if you don't have Erin is what, 80 bucks? There is an option of other commanders. There's Juan, who gives you some pretty decent camo, an extra 5% camo and a extra 47 view range, and of course you're free to mix and match however you want. So he's kind of an Erin but not quite. And then lastly there's also Zatsiev. Where are you, Zatsiev? And there's Zatsiev, who gives you 15% camo, which is the same as Erin's if the vehicle doesn't move for over 5 seconds, but requires you to be stationary, and of course also worse, but also gives you this fun little camo penalty of a camo penalty reduction of about 16% if you're firing your missile, which of course you should be, and some crew damage as well. And while both of these guys are inherently worse than Erin, they're, well, you still need to take them. Now, with Erin, and with all of the 2C Stalker's upgrades, in which it gets 30%, spotting refoliage of 50% with the radar upgrade. So we've got 50%, active IR optics, 110%, and of course Erin's ability to spot targets. That's 140% spotting targets behind foliage, so that's 1.4 bushes. So, unlike all of those other AFVs, the inclusion of radar pretty much negates the bonus an enemy will get from being from behind a single bush. There will be a game showing that later on. So, standard modules apply: first aid cabinet, surplus parts crates, improved fire extinguisher. This is a very squishy vehicle. Please take your fire extinguisher. You don't want to get set on fire. And then lastly, there's electro-absorbing paint and improved telescopic lenses. Now, in terms of the other modules for the other scouts, they may have been using the augmented optics instead of the IR optics. So keep in mind that those view ranges may not be as accurate as they need to be. AP rounds, 205 penetration. They won't go through MBTs now, but they'll go for other AFEs. An extra bit of penetration is nice, but however, this vehicle will completely fail when put up against vehicles like the Stalker 2, when up against stuff like the Mortar 2 and the K21. As you can see here, the Mortar 2's penetration of 240, 201, 130, 53, 213, which means it can't penetrate the turret of the Mortar 2, can't penetrate the upper front plate either, and if this thing is throwing itself at you, I fucking hate kids screaming from outside, shooting the lower plate isn't exactly going to be the greatest thing in the world. The same thing goes to the K21 as well. The K21's penetration of 220 is barely enough to pen itself. As you can see here, all of this armor layout, so please do not get into a fight with K21s or Mortar 2s, as they will absolutely obliterate you. Now, in terms of a penetration test versus other MBTs of the same tier, I'm going to go with the M1 Abrams to show you why. Now, as you can see here, the 205mm of penetration doesn't really matter much except when you go to the side. However, it does mean that you're able to pretty much penetrate the Abrams from, well, most distances at the least. So the missiles can only really be used here. However, unlike things like the Bradley and other AFEs which only have fixed missile launchers or missiles are not accurate, you're still able to dump missiles into the roof of the vehicle. As you can see here, doing this with a Bradley may not work, and eventually being able to hit the turret ring as well as the engine deck. So it does have that going for it. Now I'm going to put a very quick pros and cons up at the end of the T2 Stalker, and I believe we should be okay, except for its armor model, which is, well, it's not very good to say the least. Look at that, it's pretty much completely green to itself, but it is quite small to say the least. It's actually the same height as the Sprut. So in comparison to other AFVs such as the Rosamac, which is huge, it's a pretty small target. Top speed of 94 means it can get away easily. So it honestly has so many things going for it. So, at the very least now, let's have a look at 2 games, one of which is done live, and another which was of the How to Tank series. So, nice bit of content there, as well as some explanation of the actions that I've been doing. This isn't bad. We're on North Team as well, so it's a good start, granted. I shot the tank back. Let's see. I have to admit that depending on the terrain, the MBT armor changes, making them basically like immune, except to the really stupid chip damage, either grossly favors the attackers or the defenders. Like there's no jinking or angling or anything. I mean I still angle and jink, but that's more out of habit. From the old Obsidian days, which is about 4 years ago, and I still haven't gotten over it because I'm a terrible human being. See, it even moves. You see, if the Bradley and a lot of other vehicles with fixed missile launchers had the ability to move like they did in real life, it would actually make playing them a lot more viable. And honestly speaking, the biggest strength for South Team is the ability to almost near always have a monopoly on taking this side, and then they can basically establish a humongous crossfire, and people just don't care about that anymore, which is actually kind of sad. Then again, it is getting increasingly difficult for people to actually give a shit about, you know, taking good points and stuff. I mean, if we can move up and put like some good fire on, we might be able to do this. Where's the ranker? Can I? Yeah. Okay. If he pops up at that again, I can actually spot him. Missiles will do about 300 damage each. So, is there any people camping? Interesting. There's nobody up on top. So this has a couple of things that says to me that a good portion of them are all... Kill the Griffin, 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 for fuck's sake. Nice. Oh, thank Christ. Yeah, he was not a smart... he was very not a smart... Oh, not a smart bunny. Definitely. And with him out of the way, there goes their best spotter. You see? Nobody takes the defense of this side of the map seriously, and now they're getting absolutely boned because of it. Oh, Stingray. Oh, fuck, spotted. Okay, the chance of that Ramco coming over to say hi is quite likely, so I'm gonna bounce off a bit. I might have missed, but what's the difference in the movement of the Bradley versus real life? The Bradley's missile launches can't elevate or depress, so what happens is that it... Hold the fucking phone. So basically what happens is that because missiles... accelerate so quickly up to their top speed of about, I think it's 250 or 350 meters a second. Basically what happens is that the Bradley has to be on perfectly flat terrain, otherwise thanks to the fixed missile launcher they just immediately slam into the side. So having a fixed missile launcher for the Bradley, I don't think it does IRL, I'm not sure, but either way it basically makes using the missiles on anything but flat terrain or the perfect angle completely unviable because they just slam into the ground. It's actually really sad because the Bradley used to be really used to be really good. Come on. You see, if MBT still kept their original roof armor, I'd be... That's me getting distracted. Let's see if we can hit the area. Really? Must be so much. Big cat spotted. See, I can't even pen the fucking back of this guy's turret. Like, it just... Ooh. That was some good aiming. Not gonna lie. You see, I have established myself in a really good position because I can fire on the hill. I can fire. I can spot the MB. I can spot the VCAC if he moves over. I can spot pretty much just about almost anything. Come on, hit in a minute. Ooh. But you see, I can't even pen the side of his fucking vehicle with. Hold up. I've got to contend with way too much here. I think that VCAT might want to go for me. I can't. I have to be over here. Hold up, Stingray. Oh, get him. Yeah, he's down. See? Good location. I think I can move up now. I should be able to outspot most of them. I mean, I think we know where the VCAT's going to be. He's going to be all the way over there. I'm using Erin, you fine. You see, he's moving up with me now. Fucking... Jesus. Yeah, Tard, as a clan name, is quite descriptive. The fight with the dragon, he could potentially win. Well, I mean, he's going to win because no matter what, his APS... I mean, I wish APS actually had angles that they can, like, fire at. VCAC's dead. Where's the dragon? He's probably going to be somewhere high, or he's going to be in a village or something. 9 times out of 10, the guy's going to be... Is he over there? There he is. Where did that go? Did it miss? Yeah. Jesus, bit of tea. It's not a bad game. The spotting damage may not have been important, but spotting the Merc, the Stingray, and the VCAC from being able to get their firing positions going on, like that Stingray could have been really stealthy, but I spotted him, is actually quite important. I'll say doing that was more important than this guy's 2700 spine damage, and definitely our Stingrays as well. It's not a bad game. This is a little video on one of the more underappreciated ways of how to win Armored Warfare in PvP. Now, of course, I'm referring to the most important class in the game, which is AFVs to some extent and to light tanks to some extent. These are really the only vehicles in the game that are capable of spotting the enemy, providing information, vision, map control, etc. As you can see, I'm using the Stalker, the T2 Stalker here. Other vehicles I could have done this with probably would have been the Jesus. Might have been able to do this with a Rosamac, but honestly, for this kind of situation, I feel that the Stalker would have been the best buy. There would have also been the Griffin as well, the Griffin 120 with its massive foliage bonus, and a setup of my build and its comparison to the other good AFVs of the same tier will be on the screen now. So, front lines. This is one of the more scout heavy maps in the game, and you'll see me here going up to a very predictable spot. Now, if the enemy does know I'm here, they'll usually put a single round through. If they do that, then I'll know. Unfortunately, we have a VCAC over here who is very not mindful of the fact I'm using Erin, and we have our first enemy spotted here of the day. Now, using Erin is absolutely tantamount to using an AFE, a light tank or a TD at this point. There's no really anybody else who can cover. And we have a total of about 150% spotting through foliage. The reason why I'm not using my radar at the moment is because while it will help with the spotting through foliage, see, spotted that VBR over there. It would also reduce my camouflage factor by 5%, which will make it down from 48, which means an enemy vehicle with 400 meters of spotting range will only be able to see me at 200, minus 5%, suddenly 230, 240, maybe even 250, and that's just any MBT, any AFEs will be able to spot me from a lot longer off. And you see me here, I'm trying to tell my teammates I'm trying to get up. Erin's camo bonus, if there's no enemies, if there's nobody within 25 meters of you, gives you an extra 77% to your camo. So we're doing something here called passive scouting, which is when you sit in one place for a determined amount of time. This is the best way to ensure map control. You can see me moving a little bit closer to my bush. But even without the radar, my combination of Erin and the thermal optics means that I basically negate one bush of cover to the enemy, which means that bush where the VBR is, well, he's not going to be able to see anything. So you see me trying to get this Crimson Knight's attention, obviously not working. Anyway, so passive mount scout control here. Now, another important thing we need to be mindful of when you're using a scout, if I wasn't using this, I would actually prefer to either use the Sprut or the Buford, as they are quite good. Spotted the dragon over there, some nice spotting damage. Even if spotting damage is only little, at the same time, as soon as an enemy is spotted, especially if they're a light one, they will be forced to get away from that place. So even in the end, the damage and scouting values won't be as good as maybe what you see on a blowout game. Just being able to deny enemy scouts, light tanks, sometimes even TDs, the ability to actually spot for themselves, move up, do damage, provide their own map and vision control is just as important as doing damage. Essentially speaking, if you can force your enemy into a corner where they can't move around in the room, you're golden. Now, as you can see here, spotted the BMD2, actually my teammates did, and I have a good 5 position control on him. As you can see here, I now have 56% camo, which means that an enemy with 400 meters of view range, you're going to be able to see me at what, 140 meters, maybe less. As you can see here, I'm trying to get him off. I'm somewhat hesitant of being able to fire a missile because there's that VBR behind. VBR's moved off, and I can now start missiling him. Type 16 down, which is good. Honestly, I should be firing at the Sprut because the Sprut is actually quite, what's the term, spottable, but the Sprut has good vision range while the Type 16 and the Centauro does not. So the reason why I wasn't firing missiles at that point was because the Sprut could have spotted me, even though, but if it was just the Cent and the Type 16, I would have fired missiles at him. Basically, it's about having a good handbook in your head of certain vehicles that have good vision range and certain ones that don't. BMD2M over there did not spot me, which makes me lead to believe that this guy is not using a scout build. A lot of people tend to use the BMD because it's got those big missiles. See, finally spotted. And a good thing about the Stalker 2T is that compared to a lot of AFEs, like tanks and TDs, 360 degree smoke basically means that you're not going to get spotted. That little grey thing when you smoke up, it's not going to happen if you only have directional smoke. VBR still over there, however, I'm not really concentrating on him at this moment. He's somebody else's problem. I need to be focused on the enemy here. Now, this isn't the best spot in the world, considering I'm still relatively exposed, but my missiles are actually quite useful at this point. Abraham smoked up, hit him anyway. Good, 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 and unfortunately only chip damage there. If MBTs were not buffed to the ridiculous extent that they were with the hull and the turret armor changes, that would have been a penetrating hit and he would be dead. So now I can't exactly afford to wait around anymore. I've got to kill them, got to fire. I noticed that my missile would have been able to hit that sprite in time, so I fired anyway. Got to hit him. BMD over there, hit. Good, good, good. And now thanks to my efforts of being able to prevent the M1A2 from rolling up on our flank, killing off the BMD, putting fire on the other guys, spotting the sprite, we now near enough have this game in the bag. So another good thing about the Stalker is that its missiles are actually incredibly useful. They have excellent agility. You can fire them from above ridges, which is not something that happens to quite a few now. Essentially speaking, the Stalker has the old missile layout where missiles are actually useful in terms of stuff other than doing damage. They're agile, they can hit behind ridges, etc, 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 and it's on a good, relatively high platform as well. Compare this to stuff like the Kriz or any other missile vehicles where you'll be fighting, hitting the ground as much. The Bradley with its fixed missile launcher is actually particularly notable for this. And as you can see here, I finally have my radar up, giving me the ability to basically negate 1.5 bush. When moving across fields like this, where your enemy will most of the time be in a relatively small location, they'll be in the corner, they'll be sitting in the bush, having that radar up will help, because that 5% of camo isn't going to help. Enemy Stalker over there, I'm rushing as fast as I can to engage him. Notice me going up to the ridge here. I'm pretty sure I can spot him. Can I? No, not yet. There he is. Missile out. Dead. Part of being a scout is knowing where your enemy's going to go, and it's pretty likely that he was going to go along that road. So pre-aiming is definitely a good thing. Now, an unfortunate thing about the Stalker is that, unlike AFVs of its own tier, it doesn't have armor, it doesn't have an APS, it doesn't have a soft kill APS. It could be butchered quite easily with autocannons, so against stuff like a K21 or a Griffin, it's going to lose in the fight. So it needs to be on a relatively hands-off play. VBR over there, missile, oh, just missed. And the most important thing to do right now is to get out of here. A lot of things enemies are going to do, especially North Team, is that they sit on the ridges, which is honestly an incredibly annoying play and something that definitely should be flattened. But nothing I can do about that. Sprite SD over there, and he got spotted. The most important thing to do right now is ignore the VBR and go for the Sprite. I have fire control on that Sprite, whereas I'd have to go over the way for the VBR. Slid down the hill to avoid counterfire from the Sprite. Even in the game like this, they could still lose. I'm good hit by the BWP over there. The Dragon, definite kill on that VBR. Spotted again, which means the Dragon's going to be over there, I think. So rather than go to see the Dragon, I'm very certain I can outspot him and see him. So the best thing to me is to simply sit on the hill and wait. I have probably the heaviest bit of firepower here with my 2 missiles, heavier than the BWP and certainly heavier than our Dragon, so I can certainly waste missiles trying to hit him. See here, go to the tallest bit and just stop. View range out. And there he is. And dead. So, what did we learn? We learned that having nerves and being able to not run away at the first sign of trouble is an excellent scout location and ability to have. We know that we can quite handily have a handbook on us when we know what enemy vehicles are going to be able to spot us, which don't. If an enemy vehicle doesn't spot us at that time, we know what kind of build they're using. For instance, that BMD2 was most likely not using an errand spotter build, which meant that I was able to stay on that hill for longer. And we know that being able to roll up to kill enemies rolling up a flank rather than go for ones with more hit points is definitely more viable and productive to the game, rather than wasting 2 missiles on maybe killing that Sprut, but then I would have only had an autocannon to go against that Abrams, and with the recent MBT side armor changes, good luck shooting an MBT with an autocannon. So as you can see here, I shot the Type 16, 2 hits, making him basically a one-shot for our guys, and in the end for me, spotted the Scent, spotted the Dragon, spotted the VBR. The Dragon and VBR are very good spotters. Got a missile hit on the Stalker and the BMD-2M, 900 to him. I think the most important guy I killed or did damage to was probably going to be the Sprut. And top of the team, 5,400 damage done, 2,600 spotting. But of course the game never says anything about map or vision control, which in the early and the mid game, stopping the enemy from being able to stealth fire on the hill, stopping from the enemy from being able to actually even sit on that hill to begin with, noticeably the Dragon and the VBR, stopping the enemy from being able to push up onto the ridge. The TDs would have been able to stealth fire, and I also provided overlapping vision control with our AFEs there. So good passive scouting play for enemies dead. Total potential damage done would have been 7,500, but that's 3 hits. And yeah, not really that good. And no damage taken, which is actually something that's quite rare for me. Alright, so final verdict of the Stalker. I'm going to put its pawns on screen now. The final verdict of the 2T Stalker is that it is probably the best overall AFE of Tier 8. It seems pretty much made for 3.0 with flexible missiles, a higher than average view range platform. I believe the view range platform is actually more of the missile spotting things rather than anything else. And it's so much more flexible than the Rosamac, which is unwieldy at best. There's the Bradley, in which its fixed missile launcher can't actually do anything because of how slow it is. The fact that if a Bradley is on a slight incline, it's going to start hitting rocks and stuff. The T2 Stalker's extremely raised missile launcher means that it performs just so much better. It's almost a dream vehicle. If it had higher view range or was faster, it would probably be overpowered. But this very much makes me think of the Scorpion Castet of Tier 8. The Castet is probably one of the only Tier 6 AFEs that's actually fun to use. The 2T Stalker is no exception. Fast, flexible. You're not going to fight it as you will with the Rosamac or a BMD-2, which is too slow, or a Bradley, which is too slow and can't, and its missiles are kind of crap as well. The 2T Stalker will pretty much always be there for you. It's a good vehicle. I've very much enjoyed my time with it, and while I've struggled to have really standout games, my games of it have always been decent. Now, of course, there is always a thing of the fact that MBTs are overpowered now and missiles don't really do, but when those missiles do hit, when you can get to start penetrating things with it, it's overall a fun vehicle. And to answer the question, is the 2T Stalker that good? Yeah. The 2T Stalker is, for all intents and purposes, that good. Thanks for watching the video anyway. I hope this helped with all the little module selection and everything. I will be doing a review of the Panzer 87 140 when it comes out. I have a video lined up for it and everything. So, 2 reviews in 1 week. How's that for content creation? Anyway, stay safe for now, guys, and to see you all later.